Hi friends, so I welcome you to the class. In the last lecture we were discussing about pricing and the price setting process, where we looked at why companies, what are the objective of pricing, and what are the different effects of demand and cost and everything. So then I also discussed about what is competition based pricing and what is value based pricing, slightly, not in details, and what is how cost affects pricing. Today we'll look into some of the techniques in more detail and at length. Okay. So let's start with cost based pricing. So this is the most traditional method of pricing, as I had said in the last lecture also. So in this method, what companies do is try to find out what is the cost they are incurring, and once they understand the cost, right, then they try to fix a price accordingly. Suppose, let's say, my cost of production is 100 rupees. So I would charge maybe a 20 rupees premium on that, and I would sell in the market, the selling price is equal to 120, right. This is a good way, there is no doubt about it, this is the most safest way of doing things. But this traditional method forgets one important part, that maybe the customer is ready to pay 250 rupees and I am charging him only 120. So why am I doing it? So this thing will be looked at in more detail when I come to value based pricing. Then what should the company do in that case situation, right? So let us start first with the cost based pricing. So this is the most traditional method of pricing, as I had said, and sometimes it is also called as cost plus or markup pricing. So it is typically used by construction companies, marketing research agencies, almost all companies use it. So what they do is they try to find out the entire cost that is incurred by them. But interestingly, finding out cost is not as simple as it looks, right? One is from an accounting perspective one can think, and the other is from a financial perspective one can think. From an accounting perspective, okay, fine, you can understand. But what about the financial impact, right, of the cost? Now, the same cost of opportunity, or the time value that is passed through, we are forgetting that that also can play a vital role while looking at the cost of our production, right? So, looking at cost based pricing, some of the favor or the favorable arguments against in favor of cost based pricing is that it is fair to both buyers and sellers, as sellers do not take advantage of the buyers when the buyer's demand becomes less, and so this exploitation behavior is not there, right. So if the whatever the buyer buys, the cost price is, the selling price is fixed. Okay, it is simple to calculate from an accounting perspective, and the competition in the market is minimized because I am worried about my cost. So if since I am producing something at, let's say, 100 rupees, as I said, and somebody else is producing at, let's say, at some different price, he will charge accordingly in the market, and thus it allows for a fair amount of competition in the market. Okay. Obviously, cost based pricing does not lead to optimal price, right, as I said, because you do not try to understand the value that the customer feels about the product. So sometimes you may be overpricing just because the customer does not find so much of value in the product, or you might be underpricing just because the customer feels this product could have been charged much higher. Okay. Let us take an example. So how cost based pricing is done? So a manufacturer of ceiling fans, right, he has the following value, following costs and sales volume expectations. So when you calculate, we need to calculate, as I said in the last class, we need to know the fixed cost and the variable cost, right. So that makes us our total cost. So what is the variable cost? The variable cost he finds is that the raw material, labor and all is 600 rupees per fan. The fixed cost is unit tens 100, 1000, 10,000, lakh, 10 lakh, crore, 10 crore. So 20 crores. Okay. Expected sales volume in numbers is 10 lakhs. Okay. So this is 1 million, and this is 20 crores or 200 million, right. In million, if you do it little bit easier. Now calculate the selling price by using cost plus method, using the manufacturer wants to earn a markup or target profit of 25% on sales. Now just imagine that the manufacturer wants, say, 25% on the sales. So how much should it be selling, at what price would it be selling? Now looking at this example, let us see. So, the cost per unit is variable cost plus fixed cost by expected sales. Now, this entire fixed cost is distributed by the total amount of production that you are making, right. So, variable cost is 600 plus 200 million divided by 1 million. So, which is giving us almost 200. So, total cost per unit is coming to be 800 rupees. So, as we know that the number of the fixed cost is generally not counted for because we have already established the plant. But if we look at the number of units that we are producing and how it is distributed across the product, so we are finding the total cost per unit for the manufacturer is now 600 from here variable cost and 200 this fixed cost upon sales. So, the final price now is how much? Now, cost per unit upon 1 minus the target profit. Now, what is the target profit? So, 800 divided by 1 minus 0.25, 0.25 is the 25% profit that he wants over the sales. Okay. So, that gives me a price of 1067. That means, the manufacturers should sell the fan at rupees 1067 in order to get a 25% profit on the cost of its production. Okay. So, this is an example. There can be a situation when sometimes companies feel they can either make a product or buy a product. Now, why this feeling comes? Because in the recent past you must have heard about lot about outsourcing. So, companies felt that it is better to outsource some of the products which are costlier to us, right, well, or making it is very costly. So, let us buy it from outside. But on the other hand, if it is easy to make and less costly to make, then it is better to create it inside. So, this decision has a lot of importance, it makes a lot of bearing on the pricing of a product also, right. So, let us understand what is this make versus buy. So, with an example, let us say the estimated cost of producing 6000 units of a component is given here. The same component is this one, right. If you want to produce it, this is the total the cost of the components, right. The same component can be purchased from the market at a price of $29 per unit. If the component is purchased from market, 25% of the fixed cost factory overhead will be saved. Now, since you are buying this product from the market, so your factory overhead, that means the factory space, machinery and all, 25% of it is saved since you are not using anything, right. Now, the question here says, should the component be purchased from the market or should it be done inside? Internally, right, or should be produced, that is the meaning. So, here if you see the data is given to us as it has been mentioned here. So, the direct material that is involved here is $10. So, total units we know is 60,000 rupees, 6,000 units are to be produced. So, each per unit, this is per unit, right. So, $10 direct material, so that makes total is into 6, this is to be multiplied with 6,000. Okay. Direct labor is 8. So, again dollars, all are in dollars. Okay. So, 8 into 6,000, 48,000, this is 60,000, 9 6 are 54,000, 12 6 are 72,000, right. So, total if you look at the per unit is $39, which makes $2,34,000 is the total cost for 6,000 units. Okay. Now, should it make or buy? Now, the question is there. Now, if I am per unit make buy and the total make buy we are comparing now. If I purchase, I am purchasing at $29. Okay. So, total cost is 29 into 6, 6 9s are 54, 4, 5, 6 2s are 12, 5 17. So, $1,74,000. Now, if I am using this producing it internally, what is happening? $10 is my direct material, labor is $8, variable overhead is $9 and this is 25% of the fixed factory overhead will be saved. So, what is saved? So, that comes here. So, the relevant fixed overhead which can be used for other purposes, that is coming as to be $3. Okay. So, entirely if I am adding up, so it gives me 10 at 18, 9, 27 plus the $30, right. And here I am spending $29 when I am buying. So, if I am making, it is coming 30 into 6. So, 30 into 6, 1,80,000. If I am buying, it is coming to be 1,74,000. So, in this condition what is happening? The difference is in favor of buying the product from the market and saving a $6,000 per 6,000 units, right. So, the question here is the company should make a decision whether to produce it or buy it, and in here we are finding that buying is a better situation, but not all situations will be good for buying. Sometimes it might be better. Even in this case, if you see, the kind of savings we are making is very less, right. So, with this kind of savings, a company can think, why do not we make it inside, so that we can with time earn more, let us say, the learning curve can grow and we can save more, and maybe we can become a specialized manufacturer of this product. So, these are some situations which are subjective and the manager must have to think about it. Now, coming to the third case, when we are talking about any product, when you are making. So, one important discussion that needs to be happening is break even analysis. Your pricing depends on what is the break even point, right. What is the break even point? The point at which the company attains no profit or no loss, neither profit nor loss, right. So, let us see, this is the BEP. For example, if you look at this, this is the total cost, right, and this is my revenue, this is my revenue. So, here is the point where the company finds that this is the point where I am neither in profit nor in loss, and before this I was making losses, this is the loss situation, and after this my profit is increasing. Okay. With each extra incremental unit of production, I am earning more revenues out of it. So, how do we calculate and how does it affect pricing? See, it is simply affecting pricing because once I know at what units or how much time I will take, let us say, to produce this, to reach this break even point, the company can decide its pricing system, right, whether it should price at a low, price high, what it should do basically. So, to understand this break even analysis, few terms are to be understood. First is contribution. Now, what is contribution? Now, contribution is nothing but the selling price minus the variable cost. So, whatever price the company is charging and whatever cost it has incurred, this difference is called my contribution. Okay. Now, what is break even sales? Now, break even sales is nothing but fixed cost upon the contribution, that is fixed cost divided by selling price minus variable cost. Okay. So, here we can find this thing with a problem. Let us do it with a problem. So, break even sales in this is in units, this is in rupees. Now, fixed cost divided by the PV ratio, profit volume ratio. Now, what is profit volume ratio? Contribution by sales into 100. So, using this basic formula, right, we will use we will calculate the numerical, right. So, this is the numerical in which we are trying to find out the BEP, the break even point. Now, as we have understood, this is the point where the company neither makes profit nor makes losses, but after this the company starts making profit. Okay. So, let us say the fixed factory overhead cost is 60,000 in a particular case, given case, right, the data is given to you. The selling overhead cost is 12,000, right. Variable cost per unit is rupees 12. Variable cost for selling per unit is rupees 3. So, when you selling means what? You are trying to market the product, create your sales territory, maybe use some sales promotion techniques, whatever is available. For that you are expending another 3 rupees. You are selling this product in the market at 24 rupees. Find the BEP, the break even point. So, what number of unit you are in a position where the cost and the sales are at the same point. So, that means there is a no profit no loss situation. And then the second question says, how many units must be sold to earn a profit of rupees 90,000? Again, you think, why should I, as a B2B marketer, why should I learn about this? If you understand this, right, what happens is it helps you to price your product in a better way, right. So, what happens here? Let us see. BEP is equal to, as we have said, fixed cost upon the contribution, right. So, if you remember, BEP is equal to fixed cost upon the contribution. So, per product how much contribution we are gaining, and that will be divided across the fixed cost. Okay. So, variable cost is 12 rupees plus 3 rupees marketing or selling cost. So, total is 15. Total fixed cost that we have been we have seen is these two, right, selling overhead and factory overhead. So, that comes to 72,000. So, what is my break even point? 72,000, which is this one, divided by contribution, which is 24 minus 15, right. This 15 and 24 was the selling price. So, that means at 8,000 units, till 8,000 units I am not gaining anything, at 8,000 units exactly no profit, no loss, and after 8,000 units I am starting to gain. Now, the second part of the question is asking, to earn rupees 90,000, how many units need to be sold? So, how do we find? Let us see this. So, the fixed cost plus profit divided by selling price minus variable cost, which is my margin. So, what we are saying, fixed cost plus profit, right, by contribution, right, contribution. So, if you look at it, what is happening, 72,000 is my fixed cost, which we have seen here, 90,000 is the profit that I am trying to get, right, and upon the contribution, that is 24 minus 15, that I want to per unit contribution. So, if this is my per unit contribution and this is my total cost, so automatically it tells me to earn rupees 90,000, I will have to sell 18,000 units, right. So, this helps you to understand how a marketer, let us say, what is his how deep is his pocket, how much capital he has got, how long he can continue in the market. Sometimes the company can go for a survival strategy. In that condition, what he will do, he will not look at profits, maybe he might reduce his profit, right. So, or he can change his strategy, he might go for a heavily skimming strategy, because the product is a new technology to the market, he might like to maximize his profit. So, in that case he can, maybe he will reach his break even point very early, right. But the question is, it entirely depends on what situation the company is in, right. If he is fighting for survival, then he would not look at profit at that moment, but if he is getting a new technology and imitation can be done very fast, then he will go for immediate profit as soon as possible. Okay. Another example, let us take, this is a company, ABC company, who is selling certain products that he makes 10,000 units. The wholesale price or the selling price, let us say, is 5 rupees per unit. Total revenue that he is making is 10,000 into 5, which is 50,000, right. Variable cost is rupees 3 per unit and fixed cost is rupees 10,000. ABC company is considering a 10% price cut. So, he wants to reduce the price, which it believes would make it more competitive. So, when you go for a penetration strategy into the market, so the marketer wants to reduce the price so that it can get more volumes or can reach more customers. Okay. So, this would make it more competitive with alternative suppliers, enabling it to further increase its sales. So, the objective of the company is to increase the sales. Management believes that the company would need to incur no additional fixed costs as a result of this price. So, the company knows that if we are going to reduce this price and the volume increases, we would not require any further expansion of the plant, right. So, there is no fear of plant expansion or anything. So, with the reduction in price, whatever the demand will increase, that will be easily made within the plant capacity. How much would sales have to increase for this company to profit same as before from a 10% cut in price? So, if they are trying to do a 10% cut, so what will happen, how much of sales have to increase, right, because obviously the sales has to increase to balance it out. So, let us see this. So, the existing or old revenue from sales is 50,000. So, 10,000 into 5. New price after 10% reduction, how much? Rupees 5 minus 10 into rupees 5, which is, so new price is 4 rupees 50 paisa. So, what is the total new revenue from the sales? So, what is the sales? 10,000. So, into 4.5, so 45,000, right. What is the loss we have made? Now, we were making 50,000, now we are making 45,000. So, our loss is 5,000. The old profit level, if you see, is sales minus the variable cost minus the fixed cost. So, we are taking the the total whatever we are selling. So, the earlier we are selling at, the total sales we were making is 50,000 worth, and there our variable cost was 30,000, if you can see here, right. So, 3 per unit. So, 3 into 10,000, 30,000, right, minus the fixed cost, because fixed cost is always there as it is, it does not matter with the amount of production that you make. So, this gives you a profit level of rupees 10,000, right. Now, desired sales is what it is saying, fixed cost plus the desired profit. So, the desired profit is 10,000 upon the contribution, new contribution now, because you have changed the price, you have cut the price by 10%. So, what it becomes, 10,000 is the fixed cost plus desired profit is 10,000 divided by the new contribution. Now, new selling price is 4.50, here we have found out, right, minus the variable cost which is 3 rupees. So, that gives me 13,333 units. So, previous sales was 10,000 units, and whatever you are making to have a compensatory situation or a equivalent situation, now we have to get in 13,333 units, right. So, the increase in sales that has to happen is almost 33.33%. So, this will only balance out if you have to reduce the cost by 10%, and the improvement in sales that will happen will be almost this much. Okay. So, this helps the producer, the marketer to get a volume, price volume trade off. Okay. How much of increase in price will, how much of volume will decrease, or how much of reduction in price will lead to how much of increase in the sales. Okay. Okay, this is another problem, but I think I would leave it to you to solve this. Yeah, this is a problem, you can see this is the question. So, you take it as a task, right, and try to solve it. Okay. From cost based pricing, next I will move on to value based pricing. Now, as I have said, cost can never ever tell you the actual story of a producer, right. So, the producer is producing and thinking that this is the cost and this is what I am trying to price the product at. But the truth is, maybe the product, as I explained the case of the hospital and patient case in the last class. So, a patient feels that if I use a particular kind of product or machinery used from a good company, let us say XYZ, then I do not have to visit the doctor again and again, or I am consuming a particular medicine and this medicine is a very good medicine and I do not have to go to visit the doctor again and again, then my doctor consultation fees, admitted to the hospital, all these costs will be saved. Let us say if I am using a particular medicine and it charges me 200 rupees, let us say per month, or let us say 300 rupees per month, okay, and I am trying to consume it 12 times, 12 months, so 3600 rupees per year. But if I am using this medicine, at least I have to make 2 visits to the doctor, I have observed that. So, each time I am visiting to the doctor is, let us say 1000 rupees. So, that makes my total cost per year is equal to 5600, right. But if I am using, let us say, another medicine which costs me almost 400 rupees. So, there is a significant rise around 25%, but I do not have to visit the doctor ever. So, what is the total cost I am making here is 4800. So, although this product is costlier, but if you look at the value that it gives you is more, because the overall price that the patient has to pay is more in this case and less in this case. So, that is why in such condition a patient may be ready to pay not only 400, even if you add it little more, let us say you make it almost let us say close to something like 500 rupees per month, then also it will come close to 6000, which is almost equal to this, and there is no headache of creating an appointment, standing in line or queue in front of the doctor, all these hassles are removed. So, value based pricing tries to understand how much of value does the customer derive from the manufacturer or the producer's product. Okay. So, in this method the price is set based on the perceived or estimated value, and yes, remember one more thing, when you talk about value, there are 2 types of value we are talking about. One is the monetary value that here we calculated, right, 4800, 5600 or 6000, 5600, whatever it is. The other is the psychological value. Now, what about the psychological value? Now, psychological value is that when let us say I make an appointment with the doctor and I am spending, let us say, 3 hours of my time. So maybe I have to take half a day's leave from the office. My per day, earning is 4,000 rupees, let us say. So at least I am losing 2,000 rupees per each visit, and for 2 visits here also I am losing out almost 4,000 rupees. So the question here is 4,000 plus 5,600. So actually I am losing out, I am spending 9,600, and there can be more troubles also. So this psychological value, the monetary value that I am spending, all this have to be checked and taken into consideration while pricing a product when you think about value based pricing. That is why value based pricing is a much preferable method in comparison to the other methods of pricing like cost based pricing or competitive based pricing. Okay. The foundation of value based pricing is to understand the customer's goals and the values used to achieve, right, these goals. With better technology and the ability to capture and analyze market data, more and more marketers today are moving towards this strategy. So earlier what happened, you did not have the information, you did not have the social network, you did not have the ability to understand the consumers better. But now with social media, with easy connection and all, it is very easy to collect data and try to analyze and interpret data, which helps you to understand ki how much, exactly how much value is the customer giving to my product and what is the price he is ready to pay. Sometimes what we term it as willingness to pay. So in when you talk about value based pricing, we say we try to find out as a marketer what is his willingness to pay, how much is he ready to pay. The three things that affect value based pricing is first of all availability or scarcity. So if the product is not available in time, what happens? What kind of, so how important is this product, that value is generated by understanding the scarcity of it or the availability of it. Let us say scarcity most importantly. Suppose the product is not available, let us say how important is that product, be it a medicine or be it a machine in the production system, whatever it is. Suppose this medicine is not available, let us say, what happens to the the patient, right? Will the patient suffer? Will the patient lose his life? What will happen? So if we can understand ki without this medicine, let us say there is a very high chance that the person may get a cardiac arrest or a stroke, then we understand that this product has very high value. Okay. Similarly, value based pricing also gets affected by the ability to differentiate, right? So if you can, let us say, if as a buyer you are using this product to differentiate yourself from the rest of the competitors, that means you are giving very high value, right? But if you are unable to create any differentiation or anything for yourself, then you do not get too much of value from this product. Third thing that value based pricing teaches or is connected to is the segmentation. Value based pricing says that segmentation or pricing, this pricing will be different for different segments in the market. Now what does it mean? It says, for example, in terms of demographics, right, in terms of geography, right, what we have understood as the forms of segmentation, psychographic, behavioral. So how are people using it, right? For example, let us see, when you talk about value based pricing, one thing that comes to my mind is, let us say, location, the impact of location. Now when I am saying location, let us say when you buy a particular thing, let us say in the airport, and the same thing that you buy in a normal shop, what happens to the price? Let us say if you take a sandwich in an airport, it costs you 150 rupees, and in a normal shop it may cost you 25 rupees. So it is almost 6 times. So value based pricing is looking into those kind of features like location, urgency, age, gender, and tries to figure out what pricing can be done. So it tries to create different forms of pricing for the different sets of customers. Okay. Then you have competition based pricing, as I had said in the we had discussed in the last lecture also. Competition based pricing is a method that involves setting your prices. So two competitors are at loggerheads, so they can compete with each other on basis of the price, right? And yes, no doubt pricing has become a major form of competition, a major part of competition, right? So, companies try to win over each other using pricing as a technique. Okay. So, what it does is it ignores customer value and looks at the competitors for pricing their goods or services. So, the problem with this competition based pricing is that the manufacturer, it is very easy because it is easy to know what is your competitor doing, you can easily follow it. But the problem is that you do not understand how much of value does your product actually have. Your competitor's product might be having a lesser value. So, why should you be even trying to place your product according to the competitor's price? There is no point, right? And most importantly, competition based pricing looks easy, right? And it only works well when the product is like a commodity and there is very little differentiation in the product, right? In that case, competition based pricing is still okay, there is no issue with it, right? But if your product is a unique product and if it can create additional benefits to the customer, in those cases competition based pricing is not a very good method, rather a value based pricing should always be approached. Then what happens is that companies, one thing that happens is competition based pricing is that competition, companies can underprice themselves. So, let us say a seller is selling at 80 rupees. So, the marketer knows that my cost of production is, let us say, 46 or 45 rupees, right. So, now it feels that there is a strong, there is a reference price which is 80. So, I can, looking at the objective that I have to grow in the market or penetrate into the market or survive in the market, I can maybe sell at, let us say, 65 rupees for the same product, or I can sell at, let us say, 95, two occasions, let us say, take it. So, I can underprice myself, I can overprice myself, or go with the flow, I can almost sell at 80 again. So, this, if I am following any of these methods, if there is no difference, it may create price war. For example, let us say if you are selling at 80, the competitor is selling at 80 and you want to sell at 80, okay, there is no situation of price war. But if you are selling at, let us say, 65, the competitor is already a established player, he has also deep pockets, he can also reduce his price, and that will be a war, price war, which can lead to loss for both the companies. Okay. But what about if you have put it at 95? People do not see any differentiation. They see there is no differentiation in the product. So, why not say take this product at 80 rupees? Why buy this product at the same value which is providing same value at 95 rupees? So, this may result in lack of sales, okay, lack of sales. So, basically competition based pricing is good because it is easy to do, but otherwise there is not much of benefit because companies cannot take advantage of their value that is embedded in the product. Okay. Now, we will come to pricing policies. So, when you talk about pricing policies, it includes deciding upon the list price and discount levels, what companies want to, how much of allowance, rebates and things they can give. Now, this is more interesting because the pricing policy in the B2B market is more challenging. Why? Because, well, let us assume a product which has, let us say, one product which has got almost 50 subcomponents inside it, right. So, now because I do not have an idea of about the 50 subcomponents and each of the subcomponents price, so I have no clue how much of what is the actual price, should be the actual price of the product on a cost based term, right. So, in such a condition, there is a lot of scope for negotiation in the B2B market, right. So, the company may charge you a price which you have no clue, and it is very difficult for you to even understand the value, because why I am saying you can understand the value from your perspective how important it is, but you cannot determine whether the money that is being charged, is it worth the value or not. It is important for me, okay, if this product is not there, if this I am using, let us say there are two products A and B. If A requires more maintenance, B requires less maintenance, that is fine, this is a good product, no doubt about it. But let us say this is charging me 1000 rupees and this is charging me 4000 rupees. Is it worth, now the amount of maintenance savings or other things that I would have got, is it worth 4000 rupees? That is what is very difficult to calculate in the B2B market, right. The question of list price varies by industry. In some industries, list prices are set in such a way that no customer ever ever pays that price, right. So, that is called moon pricing. For example, now what happens in moon price now, you must have seen that most of the time companies they write a price, but then they never charge it, right. They always say there is a discount. So, why? Because this is done to create a positive, induce a positive feeling among the customer, right. But this is not applicable, this is not much applicable, at least in the B2B industries, right. This is largely applicable in the B2C industries. In B2B, people are less price sensitive because they believe that it is the importance, the value that is more important rather than being driven by price. Okay. So, one thing that affects the B2B market is the kind of discounts. So, volume discounts, like how much of you are buying, and maybe seasonal discounts. So, these kind of discounts are offered, and maybe on a deep relationship or long term relationship, you are offered special discounts to your very loyal customers. So, those are some discounts which are generally we see in the B2B space. Okay. So, as said about willingness to pay, this concept of willingness to pay is a very important concept in the in especially the B2B market, because how much is the customer ready to pay, that needs to be understood, right. If the customer is willing to pay a price which is substantially high, then why should you be underpricing yourself, right. Or if the willingness to pay is, let us say, X, then why should the company charge X plus, let us say, del X, right, X plus del X, there is no reason behind it. Okay. And what is this we say reservation pricing in willingness to pay. Now, maybe I will stop here. So, when we are talking about willingness to pay, there are two things we need to look at, right. The buyer has a reservation that how much is he going to pay you for the product. The seller has a reservation that this is the minimum I will take. So, this is the minimum I will be ready, and the buyer is saying this is the maximum I am ready to pay. So, this potential, this area, this grain area is called the zone of potential agreement, zone of potential agreement. So, this is the space where the company, right, tries to find a value. So, now the price can be set anywhere. So, the seller knows if I reach this point, I am in a good situation. Now, he can have several price points, right, and he can calculate what is the price volume trade off by having this each different price point. So, accordingly they can create a price. Okay. So, pricing has a very important role to play, and it creates lot of advantages for the marketers if they can be handled well. Because of its complexity, it is sometimes it becomes a weapon for marketers to differentiate themselves in the market, and also try to but yes, on the other side, if you say, one side it creates a differentiation for you, but other side there is a challenge for the marketer also. How do you communicate your price to the customer? Because if you do not possibly communicate it well to the customer, then there is a very high probability that the customer may feel that you have unnecessarily overpriced your product until and unless you explain him or her the kind of benefit that the customer is getting out of it, right. So, with this I would like to wind up my lecture, right. I think we have discussed about price enough, right, and if you have questions, you can always write to me. So, till then, take care. Thank you very much.